Hey guys, and welcome to Pixel Cherry Ninja's channel. In this video we are going to be having a look at the MiSTeX FPGA project. What is the MiSTeX? Well, it sounds like MiSTer, doesn't it? Yes, it definitely does. It's definitely related to MiSTer. The reason that I'm doing this, guys, is many of you guys have asked about this on the channel and said you'd like me to kind of test it out and just run some calls on the channel. And I also felt like at this current time there's enough calls running on the MiSTeX project, and there's more calls coming. It was worthwhile me picking up a board, so I reached out to the main guy behind the MiSTeX project, Hans Beer, and I said, look, I'm interested in buying a board. Whenever you get your next batch of boards, I'm happy to pick one up from you. Hans put me in touch with a friend of his, a guy called Sean. Sean kind of hooked me up with a board, and I pointed out to Sean that I'm a layman, so I'm going to need some help. If there's anything that needs to be attached to the board, then please could you attach it and send it over to me. So Sean was very, very helpful. All I had to do when I got the board was plug in the HDMI cable, plug in the power, plug in a USB hub, plug in a keyboard and a controller, and everything was almost running when I got the board, right? So guys, what we're going to do in this video is we're going to have a look at some stuff, have a look at some cores that are running, and yeah, I'll talk about what I like, what I dislike. I want to point out here as well, guys, that everything you're going to see, this is a work in progress project, right? Some stuff is working really well, some stuff is working okay, and some stuff isn't working at all. We've got a variety of cores. Let me just head over to the GitHub because that will show like a little bit of a better picture. So MiSTeX development over on GitHub. What is it? Port of the MiSTer HPS Linux system to small SBCs to enable running ports of MiSTer cores on various FPGAs connected with SPI and a couple of GPIOs. So in essence, you can run the MiSTer cores on alternative FPGAs. It's a very, very exciting project, and it's something that I've been following for a while. And honestly, guys, that circuit board or that PCB that I had on my desk, I felt like Neo from the Matrix. I'm a layman. I don't have stuff like that. So when I had it, it feels kind of cool to have like what I guess you could call the raw ingredients. And let's have a look at the next page here. So there's some cores. Now some of these cores are working, some of these cores are works in progress. So stuff like the Amstrad down here, a whole bunch of arcade cores, C64. You're going to see some of these in the video, like the NES core, the Sega Master System core. You've got stuff like the Neo Geo, SNES. Like I said, some of them are working, some of them aren't working, some of them are just like work in progress, right? And over here we've got a whole bunch of Hotego's arcade cores, right? So we've got some of those, and we'll look at some of those in this video. Now to look at the FPGA that I'm using. So I am using the QMTECH Xilinx FPGA RTX 7 XC7A 100T DDR3 core board. I read that out. I would never ever remember that name. Now it has 100,000 logic elements. The price of this FPGA, as you can see here, my local currency for AliExpress, it's $57.83, and at the moment there's a summer sale on, so you can pick it up for $51.47. Delivery charge is £4.46 for me, and once you add tax to that, I guess you're talking around £65 for this board. So it's very, very good value in what it is, right? If you want more information, guys, I'll leave links in the description for the GitHub. They've also got a Telegram group where you can fire away with any questions and speak to like-minded people. So what we're going to do now, guys, is we are going to have a look at some cores running. I'm going to talk about what I like, what I dislike, problems that I came across, and stuff that worked well. So guys, yeah, let's get into this video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, then a subscription and a like is always super duper appreciated. I've also set up a Patreon if you would like to financially support the channel. Anyway, guys, let's do this. Right, here we are. So this is when you turn on your unit, and if you've used the MiSTer before, you can see the operating system, the OSD, it's exactly the same as the MiSTer, right? That's what you're using. You've got a whole bunch of arcade cores, as you can see, I'm flicking through them now, and you've also got a whole bunch of console cores: Atari 2600, Game Gear, Game Boy Color, Megaduck, Neo Geo, NES, Pocket Challenge, Sega Master System, SNES, and the WonderSwan. As well as that, you've got utilities, stuff like Flappy Bird, something that I've never been interested in playing that, but you know what, it's there. Now let's start with arcade cores, right, before we move over to like console. So this is Black Tiger. It's one of Hotego's cores that's been ported over from the MiSTer over to the MiSTeX. Guys, honestly, at first glance playing it, it feels, it sounds, everything is very, very pretty much identical to the MiSTer, right? I can't tell the differences. What I am looking forward to doing in the future is running two cores or running a core on the MiSTeX and running the same core on the MiSTer, filming them and then running them side by side by matching up the first frame of animation and then just letting it run for like, I don't know, 30 minutes to see if everything stays in sync, and that'll give us a good idea of if the timings are exact. That's a video I intend to do in the future. Definitely let me know if you're interested in seeing that. If I get a lot of feedback on that, then I'll try and speed that up and kind of prioritize that up in the videos that I intend to do. But as you can see, you have got some arcade cores, and Black Tiger's a decent game. Kind of reminds me of Castlevania a bit. It's very, very tough. It's that kind of side-scrolling, attack everything. I really like how the kind of knives pop out there along with like your chain whip or whatever your weapon is. Now let's have a look at Burger Time. Guys, this game was definitely before my time, and this is something that Sorge brought over to the MiSTer and has now been ported over to the MiSTeX. One thing I can tell you though, guys, I do really like burgers. In fact, I'd go as far as saying it's one of my favorite foods. I never played this in the arcade, so I can't tell you how accurate this is, but looking at it, guys, I can't see anything wrong with it. It looks like it's running absolutely fine to me. So if Burger Time's your jam, you know, you can play it on MiSTeX. So I won't show you the whole loading progress, right? But some of the cores, when you load them, so this is Pang that I'm loading up, it does take a little bit of time to load up. It's not immense, it's not massive. I would say it took around a minute, maybe 1 minute 10, 1 minute 20 seconds for Pang to load up, right? I know this is something the team are working on, and this is something they hope to speed up in the future, but I wanted to give you a little idea of it, right? I didn't want to show you the whole thing, so you guys are like, oh man, Pixel, what are you doing? Your videos are so boring now. You're just showing us loading screens. But I wanted to give you an idea of that, and hopefully from that you can work it out. And over here, just going into the menu, if you're used to the MiSTer, it is just as quick as going into the MiSTer menu and setting your buttons. Guys, I really like Pang. I really think it's one of the best games out there, right? It is amazing. Let's just have a look at how it runs. It's just one of those games. It's just very, very relaxing, and it gets very, very manic later. I still remember when I first played this in the arcade, my buddy Chris was like, this game is wicked. I was like, I am not playing a game about bubbles, right, and popping these big balloons or bubbles, whatever they are, right? And as soon as I played it, I fell in love. Honestly, this is an amazing game. It's an amazing game on the MiSTer, it's an amazing game on the Analog Pocket, and now even on the MiSTeX. Just good stuff all around, man. QBerts, I know many people like this, and it's a favorite game of like many people I know. People a little bit older than me. I did play this game as a kid, but I think I played it on like an Atari 400 or 800. I remember it being on cartridge for one of those systems, right? So this is QBert. This was developed by Pico for the MiSTer, and again, it's been ported over to the MiSTeX. And if I'm not mistaken, guys, this may have been the first core ported over from the MiSTer to the MiSTeX. I could be wrong, but I'm just going by memory here and like the weekly news episodes I do. I remember when this was working, it was a big deal. And yeah, an arcade favorite of many, QBert. I know many of you guys out there like it. You know, it's running well. It's running perfectly fine from what I can see on the MiSTeX. QBert may have been a little bit before my time, but Shinobi definitely wasn't. One of my favorite arcade games, guys, and this is still a work in progress, because at least when I tried it, yes, the game would boot up, but before I could kind of get into the level, it would crash. I would get into a black screen, and I thought, okay, you know what, maybe it's just an issue here. I ran it through a power cycle, I reset it, it's not working. Now remember, a lot of stuff is work in progress. It's nice to see it booting. I know you're looking at a black screen. I think I'm going to go for a reset in a second. I ended up like experimenting a little bit, but I couldn't get beyond what you're seeing here, man. So hopefully Shinobi's something that will start working in future. Who knows, it might be like some kind of error on my part on my setup, but at least for me it wasn't working, and I was staring at this black screen. When I saw Vendetta, aka Crime Fighters 2 on the list, I was like, wow, okay, so the bigger the game, the longer it takes to load, right? So I was like, okay, wow, this will be interesting to kind of run on it. But from what I can tell, it has to be a work in progress, right? Because it doesn't boot up. When it's trying to boot up, it's got some kind of bad sector there during the checks. I reset it a few times. I went through a power cycle, but yeah, I couldn't get it working, guys. This is what kept happening every time I would load the game or reset it. We'll now move over to some consoles, or a handheld console in this case. This is the Game Gear. So this is the Mickey Mouse game. Is it Castle of Illusion, World of Illusion? I know it's got Illusion in the title. I kind of knew the Mega Drive version, which was Castle of Illusion, right? Guys, I never realized how good the Game Gear was, right? Because I was a Game Boy DMG guy when this came out. I did have one for a bit, but man, it ate through those batteries quick, and I never had like a wall adapter. But talking about the MiSTeX, Game Gear looks really, really good on it. We'll have a look at a few more games on this, but this Mickey Mouse game, it's running well. It sounds well. I can't spot anything wrong with it. It just looks really, really well. And I feel the Game Gear core on the MiSTeX is just very, very well done. Chase HQ on the Game Gear. Guys, I like this game a lot. Even any bad versions of this game, I always enjoyed it. I used to play this on my Commodore 64 on a black and white TV. I played it in the arcade. I so loved the sequel to this. If you haven't checked it out, check out the sequel. It's called Special Criminal Investigation SCI. The arcade version is just fantastic. But guys, again, the Game Gear is just looking really, really good on this system. WWF WrestleMania. That's right. Before it was WWE, it was WWF. And I'm old school. I will always prefer WWF, right? I used to like the wrestling games. Superstars in the arcade was one of my favorite arcade games. But guys, this is like a really good game considering it's the Game Gear. It's got a lot of characters in there. It's missing Ultimate Warrior, who was my favorite wrestler. I know he's never really been the best in video games. But guys, again, Game Gear core, superb. We did Game Gear. Now let's move over to the NES, guys. I don't care what anyone says. Super Mario Bros. 2 is fantastic. It's one of my favorite Super Mario Bros. Games, right? And unfortunately, running this, it just crashed for me, right? I wanted to start, and where I'm supposed to be floating down here, well, I'm floating down, and then here you go. Then it all goes all blibber blabber for me. So I did reset it. I tried it again, and it wasn't working for me. But you know what was working? Super Mario Bros. 3. As you can see, it doesn't load as fast as the MiSTer, right? We'll keep this bit kind of going in real time, but it does load up fairly fast. You're not waiting that long, right? Super Mario Bros. 3, I know many people consider this superior. I never played this back in the day, right? I played this originally actually on the Game Boy Advance when it kind of re-released it as a Mario Bros. Collection. I know it's a great game. It's just one of the ones I skipped. I went from Super Mario Bros. 2 straight to Super Mario World, which to this day I consider the best Mario Bros. Game out there. But yeah, NES is good. Let's have a look at another game on the NES as well. For anyone out there that hasn't played Rodland, guys, this game is amazing. The arcade version is brilliant. There's a really good version on the Amiga. I've never played the NES version, but I thought, you know what, today's the day I need to try it, and I was not disappointed at all. It plays very, very good. I mean, it's not going to look as nice as the Amiga or the arcade version, but damn, man, the NES version of Rodland is good, and it plays really, really well on this core on the MiSTeX. When it comes to the Mega Man games on the NES, right, Mega Man 2 was the main game. It's very special to me, right? And what's happening here is when we start the game, and I try and start the game as normal, you're going to hear the sound go out a bit. It's just going to crash out, right? Black screen, can't get any further. But Mega Man 2 was the main game for me, right? Because me and a group of friends, we kind of hung out together, and we used to take turns, and we ended up completing the game together. I think there was 3 of us all together that did it. But as you can see, it crashes every time. So I'm trying to load Mega Man 1 now. Now, I don't know Mega Man 1. I don't know the game at all. I've never played it. I've never really attempted to play it, right? But here we go. As we kind of start this game, you can let me know down below in the comments, but I don't think this is right. Now, the ROMs that I'm using the same set. I'm pretty sure it's the no intro ROM set. It's what I've got on my MiSTer as well, but this doesn't feel right. Look, as I go up here, I go there and bang, I appear at the bottom. There's just something off here. Now, likely there's still some work to be done on this core. So with the NES, at least, I was having issues. Some stuff worked really, really well. It seemed perfect, in fact, and some stuff like Mega Man over here and some of the other games that I tried as well, they just kind of crashed out for me. But this was really, really funny with Mega Man, because I'm thinking to myself, is this how the game actually runs? No way this is how the game runs, man. It can't possibly be like that. I can't go I can't go up there to the right and just appear down there. That's not right. Gradius, guys, honestly, there's not a bad version of this game. Every version I've played of, like Gradius, Nemesis, Life Force, Salamander, I've always liked it. It's been tough at times, but this one here just seems absolutely perfect. There's nothing wrong with it, and that's kind of going back to the point of the NES core, right? Some things work on it really, really well. Some things, as you saw with like Mega Man and Super Mario 2, they don't quite work. But you know, just want to re-emphasize, right? The MiSTeX is a developing project. It's a fast-moving, dynamic project. Improvements improvements are always being made. There's a lot of talented people working on this, and no doubt in future any creases in the NES core will get ironed out. But right now, if you had the MiSTeX and you did want to play Gradius, you are in for a fun time. Just like the Game Gear core, guys, the Sega Master System core runs really, really well. So one of the people that helped me set this up was Sean, right? So Sean, in a Discord message to me, said, check out Start Wars, like what you're seeing there, Start, with a T at the end, right? He said, it looks amazing, especially for its time on the Sega Master System. So there I am looking at the games list, trying to find a game called Start Wars. It must have been a typo, it must have been Star Wars. So I've never tried this before, but I am a Star Wars fan. So I was like, okay, he must be talking about Star Wars on the Sega Master System. So let me check this out. And you know what, guys? I checked it out, and wow, look at the graphics for the Master System, man. I mean, imagine having this back in the day. I'm sure many of you guys may have had this back in the day. It's definitely the first time I'm seeing it, but the Master System core, guys, runs extremely well. Like, I ran around 10 games. You're not going to see all of them in this video, but when I ran around 10 games on there, everything ran flawlessly. And I've experienced with the Master System, right? And some of the other games we'll see are games that I would have played. Can you guess what it is? If you can guess what the game is, give yourself a pat on the back. I'm going to show you that game next. Have you guessed what it is yet? Okay, there you go, Alex Kidd in Miracle World. And I wanted to give you an idea of how quick it is to load a Sega Master System game. They're not very big, so they load quick. Guys, Alex Kidd in Miracle World, it's one of the best games ever, right? We really like it here in the UK, as I'm pretty sure many places or many countries around the world, you guys like Alex Kidd in Miracle World as well. Why? Well, because the Master System, or some of the Master Systems, had games built into it, right? And the Master System I had Alex Kidd in Miracle World built in it, right? It's a game, if you didn't know rock, paper, scissors, stones, it would teach you rock, paper, scissors, stones. I don't know why I hit that question mark. I do remember that thing coming out to attack me, but it wasn't worth doing. But you know what? It was a while, and I missed that thing out there, and I was like, you know what? I am going to free you so you can try and attack me and fail. But guys, the Master System core is phenomenal. It runs really, really well. We'll have a look at two more games, right, on the Master System, right? Sonic, because I know many of you guys kind of had Sonic out there. You know, Sonic is not actually something I played much on the Master System. I was always a Mario guy, Team Nintendo, right, when I was younger. So even on the Mega Drive, I played the Sonic games, but I don't know them like I know the Mario games, right? But guys, this looks good to me, right? But I can't tell. If there's anything slightly out or anything, I won't be able to tell. I don't have experience with this particular game. However, I can tell you it looks absolutely brilliant. And the reason I wanted to do a final game on the Sega Master System core for the MiSTeX was because of Streets of Rage 2, right, guys? I really like Streets of Rage 2. I consider it to be, at least the Mega Drive version, the best beat 'em up I've played today. I like a lot of beat 'em ups, but I really feel like Streets of Rage 2 was the pinnacle, right? But one thing that I really liked as well was Sega, for like the Game Gear, the Master System, the versions that they had were really, really good, right? So even though the Mega Drive version was king, guys, this Master System version is no joke. If you haven't played the Master System version of like the Streets of Rage games, like Streets of Rage 2 over here, you need to play. It doesn't have everything the Mega Drive version does, but hot damn, man, does it do a good job for the Master System. I wanted to try the SNES core because, you know what, I played a lot of SNES when I was young. It's one of my favorite systems. In fact, whenever I talk about what my favorite console was growing up, it's always between the PC Engine and the SNES, right? But unfortunately, I couldn't get anything working on the SNES, right? I tried loading stuff up. I even at one point left something loading, left it to a black screen, and I went downstairs. I actually had a double cup of coffee and some cake that my wife made, and nothing even loaded. So either something's bad on my side, or the SNES is work in progress and it isn't quite working yet. So hopefully this gets implemented in the future, because for me, the SNES is one of the most important systems out there. It is a great system and I absolutely love it, right? As you can see, it's going to take a bit of time to load, but I'm going to give you like a spoiler alert here. When it does load, it's just going to be a black screen. And I tried it a few times and it didn't work, and I went straight away with Super Mario World 2, because you know what, that's one of the most taxing games on the system. When it comes to software emulation, if you want to know if the software emulator is good, you've always kind of run Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. If it runs it well, it's pretty much going to run the vast majority of the games on the SNES well. But that's it. Really sorry, SNES just not happening at the moment, at least not for me. Right, guys, the final game we're looking at, we're going back to the arcade games, but this is kind of like approaching the end of the video, which is Toki. That's been developed, or the FPGA implementation has been developed by Salao Retro Gaming. He's used JT Framework for some of the work. I know he's ported it over to the Analog Pocket as well. So the guys over at MiSTeX have ported this over to MiSTeX because Salao left this as open source. So it's amazing to see this game on different FPGA platforms, and the MiSTeX is no exception. So guys, to kind of wrap up here, what do I think of the MiSTeX, right? Well, it's still work in progress. Some of the stuff that works on it, like what you're seeing here, Toki, it works really well on it. The Sega Master System core, the Game Gear core works well on it. I had issues with the NES core, the SNES core, I couldn't get anything at all working, and I definitely faced some issues with some of the arcade games, right? But this is a project that Hans Beer and co are working on. I expect to see more cores working, more support in the future. They're also targeting more powerful FPGA boards with 100k logic elements, 200k logic elements, and I think the most powerful board out there is going to be 325 logic elements. Everything you saw here is still a work in progress, so it is subject to change. I know we've got different FPGA solutions coming out in the future, so in order to kind of tell you, is this worth you buying? Well, I guess keep an eye on the progress of it. I've got a board now, so as things develop on it, I'll try and update you guys. We all know about the Taki clone that's planned to come out, and if Taki delivers on that $99 DE10 Nano clone, then honestly that likely will be the best value one to buy, right? It does everything the MiSTer does. There's no porting or conversion processes, it just runs everything over. However, I do like the MiSTeX project. I like Hans, I like the work that he's doing. Even before the Taki clone was announced, right, it was with the intention of bringing MiSTer cores over to alternative, effectively cheaper FPGAs, right? Let's go in a world where the Taki clone hasn't been announced, right? So you've got a DE10 Nano that in pounds is going to cost like 175 pounds plus delivery and taxes, or you can buy a board like this one here, which on AliExpress was like 51 pounds, let's say 65 with tax and delivery. So it's a very, very good gesture. It's a very, very good project. I hope this succeeds. I hope multiple projects succeed. I'll keep you updated on this project as more things develop and more games become available, guys. Definitely share your thoughts about this below. I've made the purchase of this board specifically to show you guys on the channel. That's the main reason I bought it. Don't get me wrong, I had fun testing stuff as well. You know, like a lot of us guys, we like testing stuff out more than playing stuff out. I'm still that guy, right? I'll spend ages setting something up, you know, working on it and not actually playing any darn games. But anyway, guys, that's it. Be awesome to one another. If you're not subscribed to the channel, then a subscription and a like is super duper appreciated. There's also a Patreon available that will financially support the channel. If you want to do that, then that would be absolutely awesome. A big shout out to Hans Beer and Sean for helping me out with this. Be awesome, guys. This is Pixel Cherry Ninja out.